Now we move on to democracy and diversity. In this chapter, we are going to learn the civil rights movement in the USA, the Black Power movement, the story of Mexico Olympics, the consequences of the action, the origins of social differences, overlapping and cross-cutting differences, politics of social division, the outcomes of politics of social division. Language and regions are not only features that give a distinct identity to the people. They can also be stated on the basis of their physical appearance, class, region, gender, caste, tribes, and many other forms. Democracy responds to the social differences, divisions, and inequalities on most appropriate ways. Besides regional and social divisions, racial divisions are also prevalent in many countries. A story of Mexico Olympics. In the 1968 Olympics, Smith and Carlos won the gold and bronze medals respectively. They received their medals wearing black socks, black gloves, and no shoes to represent black poverty. With this gesture, they tried to draw international attention to racial discrimination in the United States. The consequences of their action? The International Olympics Association held Carlos and Smith guilty of violating the Olympic spirit by making a political statement. Their medals were taken back. This was the height of rationalism. Civil rights movement in USA 1954 to 68. This movement refers to abolishing legal racial discrimination, the racial discrimination between blacks and whites. The civil rights movement refers to a set of events and reform movements aimed at abolishing legal racial discrimination against African Americans, led by Martin Luther King Jr. This movement practiced non-violent methods of civil disobedience against racially discriminatory laws and practices. Black Power movement. It was a militant anti-racist movement. It emerged in 1966 and lasted till 1975. It was a militant anti-racist movement. It advocated to end the racism in United States. This movement and related activities responded to the social division and inequalities. Therefore, social diversity can take different forms in different societies. Origins of social differences. Social differences are mostly based on accident of birth. At the same time, some of the differences are based on our choices too. Now we move on to the kinds of social differences. There are two kinds of social differences which are based on accident of birth and based on our own choices. We talk about the social differences that are based on accident of birth. We do not choose to belong to our community. We belong to it simply because we are born into it. We all experience social differences. People around us are male or female. They are tall or short, have a different complexion, or have different physical abilities and disabilities. Now we talk about the social differences which are based on our choices. For example, some people are atheists. They do not believe in God or any religion. Some choose to follow religion and other than in which they are born. Most of us choose what to study, which occupation to take up, and which game to play. So these are all based on our own choices. We are not born to choose them. Now the question comes, do social differences lead to social divisions? Every social difference does not lead to social division. Social differences divide similar people from one another, but they also unite different people. People belonging to different social groups share differences and similarities of their groups. People belonging to the same religion feel that they do not belong to the same community because their caste or society is different. Thus, we all have more than one identity and can belong to more than one group. The overlapping and cross-cutting differences. Under this, a social difference overlaps with another difference. The people start feeling that they belong to different communities. These create the possibilities of deep social divisions. For example, difference between blacks and the whites in USA and the Dalits in India. In the cross-cutting differences, under this, the social difference cross-cuts another difference. The groups can share a common interest on one issue but are likely to be different side on some different issue. These are easier to accommodate. For example, the Northern Ireland and Netherlands, both are predominantly Christians but divided between Catholics and Protestants. Politics of social division. Social division affects the politics of every country. Democracy involves competition among various political parties. Their competitions tends to divide society. It can make social divisions into political divisions and lead to conflict, violence, or even disintegration of a country. Social division affects voting in most countries. People from one community tend to prefer one party more than others. Outcomes of the politics of social divisions. There are three basic factors that decide the outcomes of the social divisions. They are identities, demands of any particular community, government's reaction. We talk about identities. The outcome depends on how people perceive their identities. If they see their identities in singular and exclusive terms, it becomes very difficult to accommodate. If people see their identities in multiples, it becomes easier for them to accommodate. In India, people tend to think themselves as Indian as well as the resident of a particular state or language group or social or religious community, which helps them to stay together in contact, in peace and harmony. Then we talk about the demands of any particular community. What does it mean? That it depends upon how political leaders raise the demands of any particular community. It becomes easier to accommodate demands that are within the constitutional framework of the nation and not at the cost of another community. Right? Then comes government's reaction. How do the government react? It largely depends on how the ruling government reacts to the demands of the different groups, what they are demanding and how the government is responding to their demands. It is mutual. In democracy, political expression of social division is normal and can be healthy and should not see as a source of danger to the nation. It allows many disadvantaged or marginalized social groups to express their grievances, and this encourages government to attend to their problems.